It was supposed to be a simple dinner with my in-laws. After 15 years of marriage, these family gatherings had become routine. Her parents, her sister with her husband, and us. The restaurant was her choice, as always, an upscale place that I knew would leave my credit card gasping. But I never complained. Supporting her choices was what I had always done. I should have known something was wrong when she insisted we arrive separately. "I have errands to run," she said that morning. "I'll meet you there." When I arrived, they were already seated, glasses of wine in hand, laughing. The laughter stopped abruptly when they saw me. Her father nodded curtly, her mother offered a tight smile, and her sister looked away, suddenly fascinated by the menu. The conversation flowed around me like I was a rock in a stream. Work stories, family gossip, inside jokes, all carefully navigated to exclude me. I was used to it after all these years. I sipped my water and nodded at appropriate moments, waiting for the meal to end. When the dessert menus arrived, she cleared her throat. The table fell silent. She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out what looked like an official document, complete with a company letterhead I didn't recognize. "I've been doing some accounting," she announced, her voice unusually loud. 15 years is a long time to invest in someone. She slid the paper across the table toward me. "You owe me for years of sacrifice." I stared at the document in disbelief. It was meticulously formatted like an invoice, with itemized services and corresponding dollar amounts. Relocating for your job, $25,000. Cooking dinner 3 times a week for 15 years, $58,500. Supporting your career advancement, $45,000. The list went on, ending with a staggering total at the bottom. Her family erupted in laughter. Her father slapped the table, her mother dabbed at her eyes, and her sister pulled out her phone to take a picture of my face. "Be grateful it's only this much," she said, smirking. "I could have charged interest." More laughter. The waiter, sensing the tension, quietly retreated from our table. I felt every eye in the restaurant on me, waiting for my reaction. I carefully folded the bill and placed it in my jacket pocket. Years of being the calm one, the reasonable one, had prepared me for this moment. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. Instead, I smiled slightly and asked for the check. "Don't you have anything to say?" she demanded, clearly disappointed by my muted reaction. "Not tonight," I replied, signing the restaurant bill with steady hands. "But I will." As we walked to the parking lot, her family still chuckling behind us, she grabbed my arm. "It was just a joke," she hissed. "You always take everything so seriously." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "Some jokes reveal truths," I said quietly. "And some bills need to be examined more carefully before payment is due." Driving home alone, her bill burning a hole in my pocket, something crystallized inside me. This wasn't just about tonight's humiliation. It was about 15 years of small concessions, of swallowed protests, of one-sided sacrifices that had gone unnoticed and unappreciated. When I reached our empty house, she had gone for drinks with her family after dinner. I went straight to my home office. I opened the filing cabinet where I kept our financial records. It was time to do some accounting of my own. I spent the entire night going through our financial records. 15 years of marriage documented in bank statements, tax returns, property deeds, and investment portfolios. The story they told was very different from the narrative she had presented at dinner. When we first met, I was already established in my career while she was struggling with student debt from a degree she never completed. I paid off that debt within our first year together, $42,000 that I never mentioned again. I didn't want her to feel indebted to me. That was my first mistake. The mortgage on our house, technically in both our names, but the down payment came entirely from my savings. The renovations she insisted on, the designer furniture, the backyard landscaping that cost more than my first car, all funded by my income while her paychecks went to her personal expenses. I remembered the career opportunity one declined 7 years ago, a dream position that would have required relocating to another state. She refused to move, claiming her job was too important. Yet 3 months later, she quit that important job to find herself. She never returned to full-time work after that. Then there were the 3 times I had supported her business ventures, the boutique that closed after 8 months, the online coaching service that never acquired a single client, and the lifestyle blog that she abandoned after the initial excitement wore off. Each failure cushioned by my salary and savings. As the sun began to rise, I moved from financial records to photographs and emails. Our wedding, where her family's contribution was minimal despite their promises. Vacations I had surprised her with. That spontaneous trip to Paris for her birthday, planned and saved for in secret for months. The anniversary gifts, thoughtful and expensive, contrasted with the gift cards she typically gave me. My sacrifices weren't just financial. I thought about the weekends spent with her family while my own parents, now both gone, received only obligatory holiday visits. The friendships I had let fade because she found my friends boring or beneath us. The hobbies I had abandoned because they took time away from her needs. I wasn't perfect. No husband is. But I had given far more than I had taken. By mid-morning, I had created my own ledger, not out of pettiness, but clarity. Unlike her performative bill, mine wasn't meant for public humiliation. It was a personal reckoning, a reality check after years of gaslighting and diminishment. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Hope you're not still upset about last night. It was just a joke. Staying at my sister's to give you space. Love you. No apology. No acknowledgement of how her joke had made me feel. Just a casual dismissal followed by a declaration of love that felt as hollow as our wedding vows now seemed. I didn't respond. Instead, I dug deeper. I pulled up our joint accounts, credit card statements, and hidden corners of our financial life that I had trusted her to manage. That's when I discovered the first discrepancy. A monthly transfer to an account I didn't recognize. Small amounts, but consistent over years, adding up to a significant sum. Following this thread led me to more discoveries. Secret credit cards, unexplained cash withdrawals, designer purchases hidden in grocery bills. What had started as an accounting of my contributions had become something else entirely, an investigation. The question was no longer, what have I given to this marriage, but what has she been hiding from me? The answers, I suspected, would cost her far more than she could ever bill me for. The next 3 days were a blur of discovery and quiet investigation. She remained at her sister's, occasionally sending casual texts asking when she could come home without drama. I told her I needed time to process things. She took this as confirmation of my weakness, even calling me emotionally fragile in a text to her mother that accidentally came through on our shared iPad. Little did she know I was building a case, meticulously documenting every financial betrayal I uncovered. The mysterious account I had found was just the beginning. With my background in financial analysis, I followed the money trail like a bloodhound on a scent. I discovered she had been maintaining a separate apartment for the past 2 years, a luxury one-bedroom downtown that cost $2,800 monthly. Rent paid from our joint account, disguised as investment property expenses. The property existed, but it wasn't an investment. It was her secret life. The credit card statements revealed frequent purchases at men's stores, expensive watches, cologne, clothing in sizes that weren't mine. Restaurant receipts for 2 at intimate venues on nights she claimed to be working late or with the girls. Hotel charges in our same city, never mentioned or explained. I contacted our bank and requested access to check images. There I found numerous checks she had written to cash with my forged signature. Not just once or twice, but systematically, over years. Small enough amounts to stay under my radar, but adding up to over $70,000. The most shocking discovery came from our tax returns. For the past 5 years, she had been claiming phantom charitable donations, inflating medical expenses, and creating fictional business losses. We had received substantial refunds based on these fraudulent claims, refunds that had gone directly into her secret accounts. I consulted discreetly with an attorney friend, being careful not to reveal identities. He confirmed what I suspected. Tax fraud could mean serious legal consequences for both of us, even though I had been unaware of her actions. I had signed those returns, trusting they were accurate. The emotional revelations were equally painful. Text messages recovered from our cloud backup revealed conversations with friends where she mocked me, complained about my boring personality, and boasted about how she had trained me to accept whatever she wanted. In one particularly cutting exchange, she had written, "He thinks he's so smart with his career, but he can't even see what's happening right under his nose." She was right about that, at least. I hadn't seen it. Until now. On the third night, as I organized my findings into clear, irrefutable evidence, she called instead of texting. Her voice was different, softer, conciliatory. I miss you, she said. My family, and I want to make it up to you. Let's have dinner tomorrow night. My treat this time. We went too far with the joke, and I'm sorry. The apology sounded rehearsed, the invitation suspicious. But it was exactly what I needed. Another dinner, another audience, another chance to rewrite the narrative. That sounds nice, I replied, matching her false warmth with my own. I'd like that. After we hung up, I finished preparing my documents, scanning, organizing, and creating backup copies that I stored in 3 different locations. I wasn't just protecting myself financially anymore. I was safeguarding the truth. The final piece came together when I checked our home security system. The cameras she had insisted we install for safety had captured her bringing unknown visitors into our home while I traveled for work. The footage was dated, time-stamped, and unmistakable. As I packed everything into a discreet briefcase for tomorrow's dinner, I felt strangely calm. The hurt and shock had crystallized into something harder, clearer. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was seeking justice and release. Tomorrow night, the real accounting would begin. The restaurant she chose for our reconciliation dinner was even more upscale than the previous one, a clear statement that this was supposed to impress me. I arrived early, briefcase in hand, and spoke privately with the manager. A substantial tip ensured we would have a private dining area and uninterrupted service at my signal. I ordered a bottle of her favorite champagne to be waiting at the table, not because I felt celebratory, but because I wanted to set the scene properly. This performance needed the right props. They arrived together again, her parents, sister, brother-in-law, and her. Their entrance was subdued compared to last time, but I still caught the knowing glances between them. They had discussed me, decided on an approach, prepared for whatever pathetic response they expected from me. You look nice, she said, kissing my cheek as if nothing had happened. She was wearing a new dress I had never seen before, another secret purchase, no doubt. Her parents nodded awkwardly, clearly coached to be on better behavior. I took some time to think about everything, I said as we settled in. Your bill made me reflect on our years together. Oh, that silly thing, her mother interjected with a forced laugh. We shouldn't have encouraged her. But it was just a bit of fun, her sister added. You know how she is, always dramatic. I smiled and poured champagne for everyone. Actually, I'm glad she did it. It made me look at our marriage from an accounting perspective. Very enlightening. Her father raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by my calm demeanor. Well, that's a mature way to look at it, he said, sounding almost disappointed that I wasn't still wounded. The first course arrived, an elaborate seafood platter that cost more than a decent pair of shoes. As they dug in, the conversation drifted to safe topics. The weather, an upcoming family wedding, the renovations on her parents' vacation home. I participated minimally, observing instead. The way they seamlessly excluded me from inside jokes. The subtle eye rolls when I spoke. The constant interruptions when I tried to contribute. These dynamics weren't new. They had been present for 15 years. I had simply accepted them as the cost of belonging to her family. When the main course arrived, her father raised his glass. To putting unfortunate jokes behind us, he announced grandly. And to my son-in-law, who's a better sport than we gave him credit for. They all raised their glasses, smiling at me with what they thought was generosity, forgiving me for being upset about my public humiliation. How magnanimous of them. Actually, I said, setting down my glass, I'd like to propose a different toast. I reached for my briefcase and placed it on the empty chair beside me. To transparency and honest accounting. Her smile faltered. What do you mean? Your bill got me thinking about all the investments we've made in each other over the years, I said carefully. I thought it was only fair to review the complete ledger. We don't need to do this now, she said quickly, glancing at her family. We're having a nice dinner. Just like we were having a nice dinner when you presented your bill. I replied evenly. Don't worry, I've prepared something special too. The atmosphere shifted palpably. Her brother-in-law, always the most perceptive of the group, straightened in his chair. Her father's face hardened into the dismissive expression I knew so well. If this is your attempt at getting back at her, her mother began, it's really not necessary. We all know marriages involve give and take. You're absolutely right, I agreed, opening my briefcase. Give and take. Let's talk about exactly what was given and what was taken. This is ridiculous, my wife snapped, the veneer of reconciliation cracking. I apologized for the joke. No, I corrected her gently. You apologized that I was upset about the joke. There's a difference. I removed the first folder from my briefcase and placed it on the table. But that's not really what tonight is about. Then what is it about? Her father demanded, his patience visibly thinning. I looked directly at my wife as I answered. It's about 15 years of secrets. And it's time for the bill to come due. I opened the first folder and laid out the documents methodically, like dealing cards in a game where I finally knew all the rules. Let's start with the basics, I said, sliding over bank statements with highlighted transactions. These are the monthly transfers to an account I wasn't aware of, $1, $500 every month for the past 4 years. That's $72,000 total. Her face drained of color, but she quickly recovered. That's my personal savings account. There's nothing wrong with having savings. I agree completely, I replied, then placed down the lease agreement. Except this isn't a savings account. It's the account you use to pay $2,800 monthly for this apartment downtown. An apartment in your name only, that you never mentioned to me. Her father leaned forward, frowning. What apartment? You two have a beautiful house. That's what I thought too, I said. Until I found this. I slid across receipts for men's clothing, restaurant bills, hotel charges, all neatly organized by date. Her sister picked up one of the receipts, eyes widening. This is from Valentine's Day. You told us you were homesick that night. This is an invasion of privacy, my wife hissed, attempting to gather the documents. These are my personal expenses. Paid for with our joint funds, I corrected. Funds that you claimed were going toward family investments. The same claim you made on our tax returns. Her father's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Tax returns. Yes, I continued, pulling out copies of our filed taxes. For the past 5 years, she's been claiming substantial charitable donations we never made, business expenses for a consulting company that doesn't exist, and medical expenses we never incurred. The refunds, totaling over $35,000, went directly into that same secret account. The table fell silent. Her mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. This is absurd, my wife finally sputtered. He's making this all up because his ego was bruised by a simple joke. That would be quite elaborate, I acknowledged. But fortunately, I don't need to make anything up. The evidence speaks for itself. I laid down printed copies of emails between her and the IRS responding to questions about our returns. You forged my signature on these responses. That's fraud. Her brother-in-law, who worked in finance, examined one of the tax documents and visibly winced. This is serious, he muttered, almost to himself. It gets worse. I continued, methodically presenting the evidence of the forged checks. Over $70,000 withdrawn over time with my falsified signature. The credit card statements showing purchases that never entered our home. The screenshots of text messages where she mocked me to her friends. With each revelation, her family's expressions transformed, from skepticism to shock to unmistakable dismay. Her mother started crying silently. Her father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. And then there's this, I said finally, placing a small USB drive on the table. Security footage from our home cameras. I've edited it down to a highlight reel of the visitors you've entertained while I was traveling for work. Don't you dare, she whispered, her voice breaking. I won't play it here, I assured her. Unlike you, I'm not interested in public humiliation. But it exists, and it corroborates everything else. Her sister turned to her, horror evident in her expression. Is this true? All of it. He's twisting things, she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. Taking everything out of context. Context, I echoed. Like the context of presenting me with a bill for your sacrifices while hiding all of this? Like the context of mocking me to your family for years while systematically deceiving me. I closed my briefcase. I've spent 15 years being the butt of your jokes, the target of your contempt, and the source of your lifestyle. No more. Her father, who had remained speechless through most of my presentation, finally found his voice. What do you want? He asked hoarsely. Money. I laughed. A genuine laugh that seemed to startle them all. I don't want anything from you. I just wanted you to see the truth. To know exactly who you've been laughing at, and with all these years. I stood up, placing several $100 bills on the table to cover the meal. Consider this the final payment on my tab. As I turned to leave, her tears finally came. Not delicate, sympathetic tears designed to manipulate, but ugly, panicked sobs of someone watching their carefully constructed world collapse. Those tears, they were absolutely priceless. I was halfway to the exit when her father called out my name. For 15 years, he had barely used it, preferring son, or him, or nothing at all. But now he spoke it with an urgency that made me pause. "You can't just drop this bomb and walk away," he said, his authoritative voice now unsteady. I turned back, observing the tableau I was leaving behind. Her mother dabbing tears with an expensive napkin, her sister staring at the evidence with horrified fascination, her brother-in-law awkwardly examining his hands, her father standing with fists clenched. And at the center, my wife, her perfect makeup streaking down her face, her composure shattered. "Actually, I replied calmly. "I've said everything I needed to say." "But what happens now?" her mother asked, her voice small and uncertain. What happened next was already in motion. Before dinner, I had transferred my half of our joint accounts to a new bank. My lawyer had been instructed to file divorce papers first thing tomorrow morning. The locks on our house had been changed. Her access to our investment accounts had been frozen pending legal resolution. But they didn't need to know those details yet. "Now reality happens," I answered simply. "Consequences happen." My wife suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. "You can't do this to me," she hissed, her voice pitched low enough that nearby diners wouldn't hear, but intense enough that I could feel the desperation behind it. "Do you have any idea what this will do to me? To my reputation? My future?" For a moment, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing everything I had provided. The lifestyle, the security, the facade she had built around herself. "I didn't do this to you," I replied, gently removing her hand from my arm. "You did this to yourself. Every secret account, every forged signature, every lie was a choice you made. Every time you mocked me behind my back or leveraged my trust, you were building toward this moment." Her father approached, his anger now tempered with something that looked surprisingly like respect. "There must be some way to resolve this privately," he said, lowering his voice. "Some arrangement that would be mutually beneficial." I understood immediately what he was offering. Financial incentives to keep this quiet, to protect the family name, to shield his daughter from the consequences of her actions. "I'm not interested in revenge or money," I told him. "I just want my life back. The life I suspended for 15 years while catering to her demands and tolerating your collective disdain." "We never meant," her mother began. "You did," I interrupted, surprising myself with my directness. "You all did. The jokes, the eye rolls, the constant reminders that I wasn't quite good enough for her. You meant every bit of it. No one contradicted me. The truth, once spoken aloud, seemed to hover in the air between us." Her sister, who had been examining the evidence most carefully, finally looked up at me. "I always thought you were just passive, that you didn't mind how things were." "That was my mistake," I acknowledged. "Silence isn't always acceptance. Sometimes it's just gathering evidence." I checked my watch, a simple timepiece that had been mocked by her and her family for not being prestigious enough. Now it told me it was time to end this chapter of my life. "The papers will be filed tomorrow," I said. "You'll be contacted by my attorney. Everything will be handled legally and fairly. I don't want to destroy you. I just want to be free of you." "And what about me?" my wife asked, her voice cracking. "Where am I supposed to go?" I allowed myself a small smile. "I believe you have an apartment downtown. Quite a nice one, from what I've discovered." As I finally walked away, I heard her family's voices rise in confused, angry questions directed at her. The narrative had shifted permanently. I was no longer the punchline in their family joke. Outside in the cool night air, I breathed deeply for what felt like the first time in years. The weight I had carried, the constant effort to please people who would never be pleased, to earn respect from those incapable of giving it, to love someone who saw me as nothing more than a resource to exploit, had finally lifted. I had entered that restaurant as someone's husband, son-in-law, punching bag. I left as myself, free, unburdened, and for the first time in 15 years, excited about tomorrow.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.